climate change, brother. How's it going?
Pretty good. How you doing, man?
It's always good to see a fellow climate change advocate like yourself, you know. I'm an important man, you know. I got a lot of stuff to do. No, not really, but I got a lot of irons in the fire. That is true. Speaking of fire and irons and getting heating up and stuff, it's it's approaching summer now and things are getting hot. But they say in our area that this month may be cooler than like last year. We had a pretty cool May. It's going to be another cool May.
Point number 1. In our last video, we showed chemtrails are real and that there are 3 purposes for doing this. One principally being solar geoengineering, which will be done on a massive scale.
But in reality, we wanted to talk about another subject, that was near and dear to our hearts. A few weeks ago, I don't know when this is going to air, but a few weeks ago we talked a lot about spraying stuff in the stratosphere, like cloud seeding and chemtrails.
They were trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. What they wanted to do is to do some cooling effect, because it's like we're going to talk about. That's what this solar geoengineering is all about, is global cooling. So they've already been doing that because the UN approved these projects.
Right.
So I was doing that and then removing the carbon dioxide with barium monoxide that turns into carbonates.
Right.
But now it's just kind of gone more to global cooling. This is what we're going to talk about next.
Yeah, so it's not just cloud seeding for rain and snowpack. It's more than that.
Yeah, and it'll be on a much larger magnitude.
Right.
So like what they're doing right now, they've done some spraying chemtrails.
Point number 2. Most of the solar geoengineering efforts are being done by notable universities funded by people with a lot of money.
Do you know of any testing that's been going on with this? I know we talked about some of the UN stuff in our last video over the United States, but is that part of this or is that something different?
No, they've been doing some testing, but this is mainly sponsored by the people that have a lot of money.
The big people. The big dogs, right?
The billionaires, like Bill Gates. Yes, it's mainly by them. I mean, they got some universities involved, not many, but like one notable group right now is the Keith Harvard group. They have their own solar geoengineering department at Harvard that's working on this.
Well, hold on a second. Wasn't it last time when we put this video about chemtrails, wasn't it that same Harvard Institute?
Yeah, it might be the same one. Yeah,
that said that chemtrails are not real, there's no such thing as them or whatever?
Point number 3. International conflicts have already begun due to the unauthorized use of solar geoengineering equipment.
There was an incident that happened in Mexico where this one, I think it's a company here in the United States, they went to Baja, Mexico, and they released a couple of weather balloons that had sulfur dioxide in them. But he didn't let the Mexican government know about it.
Yeah.
So when the government found out, they got really mad about it. And so now they're banning the use of any kind of solar geoengineering in their country to happen or take place. And I think it's got the notice of some other countries as well. Like I think other countries are starting to follow suit, but they can't do the spraying over their country,
So that's counterproductive in a sense. Trying to do good, but they upset a whole country by doing so, and now we don't have an ally for this science project because they're mad about how it was approached.
Point number 4. The U.S. is also starting to ban chemtrails. With so many conflicts, it may be easy to blame others for solar geoengineering's potential ineffectiveness.
Well, my mother found an article and she sent it to us too. In the United States, this is a problem in and of itself because the state of Tennessee, they're banning chemtrails, like any planes doing chemtrails over their airspace. Like they're trying to put a law that they can't do that.
So then you're going to have a problem where nobody's going to really know the effects of it, because they could always say, well, it didn't work because not everybody was on board and not everybody was in sync, and so we can't really tell if it was going to be effective or not. You could always use that as a reasoning, but if some states are worried about it and other states aren't, if we're ever going to get enough empirical data to kind of prove it or not. So, but just on the science part of it, it's a really kind of a neat idea. But if you're going to alienate other countries from it, and we're not all going to be, in sync with this science, then it may not be as effective as we want it to be. So,
Point number 5. There are issues with using sulfur dioxide for solar geoengineering, and that acid rain usually follows afterwards.
Sulfur dioxide especially causes acid rain.
Right.
So remember, we were talking about this in the 80s when I was growing up in junior high. We always used to have these world event articles that we had to do, and so a lot of times like acid rain would come up. Right. And that was a big deal in the 80s, and especially was a big deal in the Midwest, eastern part of the United States.
I remember that, yeah.
And the U.S. eventually did something about it. They came up with the Clean Air Act of 1990, I think.
Right.
And they got rid of that problem, the emissions from coal plants and other sources for the sulfur dioxide.
Because that's what coal plants, are putting up, yeah. So, and they reduced the acid rain effects, right?
And the acid rain, problems from the acid rain went away.
Point number 6. But to climate change advocates, having acid rain is not as important than stopping climate change.
But now people are saying if we put the sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere, it won't really make that big of it. Climate change is more important, like us solving climate change is more important than if we get acid rain.
Okay, so maybe they're thinking, okay, it's up in the stratosphere, we got the trade winds, it'll all rain down over in Europe somewhere. Maybe that's okay. I don't know. No,
Yeah, why did it go somewhere? Yeah, according to the climate. That's why I'm wondering if they know their climate models of where they spray it out, where the acid rain will come
Right.
down.
Well, after
I would like
if
to
it's
know
for
their
a
models.
year, it's going to
Yeah.
be anywhere in the world probably. So they're willing for the consequences of acid rain to be there in the name of climate change. Is that what you're saying?
Well, if they do the sulfur dioxide, I would think. Yeah. Now the calcium carbonate, I don't know about, but sulfur dioxide is.
Well, then why don't we do more nuclear energy? That's number one, right? Anyway, we won't.
Yeah.
We've already talked about that too.
Point number 7. Picking, then choosing, and then changing your mind on which our environmental issues are no longer important makes it hard to take these advocates too seriously.
And that's another thing that really gets me, I don't know where, but it gets me somewhere, and that is where people keep changing their minds about the environment. The environmentalists, talked about, landfill problems. They've talked about, the ozone problems over the past years. They've talked about how, the acid rain problems, and now all of a sudden, don't pay attention to those anymore. Let's pay attention only to climate change. And so, after a while, that starts to bother me as a science or engineer type person. I want to be able to grasp onto stuff that's empirical and as proof. And the more and more they change their opinions, it's harder and harder to back some of these things when you can't stand on firm ground with it. And that's sort of what bothers me about some of the extreme parts of climate change, because I want to be able to do the right thing and help reduce our carbon emissions. You and I are all about that. But when they say, oh, that doesn't matter anymore, that's okay. Don't pay attention to those things. Only think about blocking the sun's rays, and who cares what the consequences are. That's, a little bit of to me, that's not a scientific argument. So, and it's basically hiding some of the facts that may not support your argument, which isn't good science.
No, I agree, and I don't think that the extent of experimentation that they're going to do with it is going to do it justice.
Well, all right. So we'll kind of keep our eye on this a little bit, see what they're doing, and if there's any updates, we'll let everybody know. But an interesting project. So we'll see where Bill Gates goes with this here.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, until next time, we'll keep apprising the viewers of climate change issues. Anyway, until next time.
All right.
We'll see you later.
See you later.